All right, let's kick this off. We're about to go on a pretty wild journey, one that starts in a little bar in Mexico and somehow ends up asking this huge question about the future of creativity itself. And it all starts with a simple, kind of strange observation about a singer.
And that's the line. That's the thought that sparked this whole thing. Now, at first, that sounds, well, a little sad, doesn't it? Like there's a disconnect between the artist and the art. But as you're about to see, that disconnect might just be the secret ingredient to a whole new kind of perfection.
So I want you to picture this. You're in Playa del Carmen at a spot called Bloody Mary's. The air is warm, the vibe is super relaxed, and there's a guy up on a small stage, just him and a guitar. The first few chords start, and you kind of lean in to listen.
So this performer, you can tell right away he isn't a native English speaker. And yet, he launches into Bon Jovi and then Chris Cornell, and it's just, wow. He sounds identical to them. It's this startling, uncanny level of mimicry. You know, most cover artists, they put their own spin on a song. This was the opposite. This was pure, perfect replication. And this is where the big shift in thinking happens. Your first reaction is a bit of sadness, right? He's singing these incredibly poetic, emotional lyrics, but he doesn't actually get what they mean. He's missing the heart of it. But then, this other thought hits you. Wait a minute. How amazing is this? Because he's not getting bogged down by the meaning of the words. He can pour 100% of his focus into something else entirely. The pure sound, the texture of the voice, the exact pitch, every little tiny inflection. And that leads to this wild hypothesis that forms right there in the bar. Maybe, just maybe, not knowing the language isn't a weakness at all. Maybe it's his superpower. His ignorance of the meaning is what allows for this incredibly pure form of imitation. Think about it like this. For someone who speaks English, the meaning of the words is almost like noise. It's impossible not to be influenced by it. It shapes how you sing, what you emphasize, how you feel. But if you take that entire layer of interpretation away, what's left? All that's left is the raw sonic data. You're completely free to just replicate the sound, and you end up with a copy that's unbelievably faithful to the original. Okay, this is a cool story about a musician, for sure, but it's also the perfect, and I mean perfect, analogy for one of the most powerful and talked about technologies on the planet right now. Because that singer's process, this idea of replication without real understanding, is almost exactly how generative AI works. Does that sound familiar? I mean, this is basically the textbook definition of generative AI. You feed these systems a mind-boggling amount of data. Text, images, music, you name it. They get incredibly good at analyzing all the patterns, the syntax, the styles, the relationships between pixels or musical notes. But they have zero clue what a sad poem actually feels like, or why a certain chord progression gives you chills. It just knows the pattern. Let's just break it down side by side. Step 1, input. The singer listens to a massive library of Bon Jovi songs. The AI gets fed a massive library of data. Step 2, process. The singer identifies and perfectly replicates the sonic patterns without knowing the lyrics' meaning. The AI does the exact same thing with its data, no context required. And step 3, output. In both cases, you get a new version that is, on a purely technical level, a near-perfect copy or a totally logical extension of the source material. It's two completely different kinds of artists following one surprisingly similar process. And this brings us right back to that powerful idea from that night in Mexico. You know, we almost always talk about AI's lack of consciousness, its lack of understanding as its biggest flaw, its biggest limitation. But what if that's not it at all? What if that's the most beautiful thing about it? What if that's its true, unique strength? See, we humans, we create through this beautiful mess of our experiences, our emotions, our biases. We can't help it. It's our noise. But the singer and the algorithm, they create from this place of pure, unadulterated pattern recognition. They aren't weighed down by what something means, only by what it is. It's creation from a perspective that's totally, fundamentally alien to us. So that's the big question I want to leave you with. For all of human history, we've believed that deep understanding is the bedrock of great art. But what if that's just one way to do it? Is this lack of comprehension in AI just a bug we need to fix? Or is it actually a feature? A new, strange, and incredibly powerful tool that could unlock forms of creation that we can't even begin to imagine yet? What happens when the artist doesn't need to know what the words mean?